Okay, today's the big ETF announcement day. As you can see, the market's preparing. You've got ETH almost touched $4,000. You've got altcoins absolutely running, or some altcoins absolutely running. And the truth is that the same indicator that told us that the ETH run was going to happen before the ETF announcement is now telling us that there's going to be a breakout in 𝗏𝗏, which is the altcoin index. Now, what that means for those of you who don't know is that we are expecting an alt season. Now, I know that we've said alt season is coming and alt season is coming and alt season is coming, but now there is data in the charts which shows us that this alt season is coming, and there's fundamental data to actually back it. And so the combination of the fundamental data plus this crossover here in the charts of the stochastic RSI tells me that this time alt season may actually be here. And if alt season's actually going to be here, then I'm going to double down. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doubling down on, because I'm taking a whole lot of our bets and I'm doubling down on those bets, and I'm going to show you exactly why. So we're doubling down on the fact that it's alt season, and we're doubling down on certain alts, and that's what I'm going to show you in the video today. So let's get into it. Big day today. ETH ETF approval day, historical day. Let's go, guys. Who would have thought that we'd be here on the 23rd of May, 2024, and we'd be talking about an ETH ETF approval, the first altcoin to get an ETF approval, and probably the official beginning of alt season. I'm going to show you why. But as I said to you guys, we have the chart which gave us this indicator over here. Now, you'll remember that with Ethereum, we had exactly the same indicator. Let me show you the stochastic. And the stochastic basically said to us on the weekly, it said, look, something big is about to happen on Ethereum. There's a crossover of the stochastic RSI, and then we got the green candle. Now we're getting it on 𝗏𝗏. That means that something big is going to happen on 𝗏𝗏. And I'm going to show you the data as to what exactly is going to happen. So before we start the show, first of all, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, what the hell are you waiting for? Are you waiting for the next cycle? Are you waiting for next alt season, or do you want to get rich this alt season? If you are here, subscribe to the channel, like the content. Also, go to my Twitter right now. I'm at Cryptomanran. Drop your Solana address, because today I'm going to show you how 𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗏 works. And the best way to show you how 𝗕𝗏𝗕𝗏𝗏 works is just to send you guys free money. So go there, drop your Solana address just before we go to the show, and let's get the show on the road. There's a lot to talk about, But my head of research came to me and he said to me, you know what? He says, we've got 40 spaces left in our frontrunners, which is our Discord. Now, our Discord is where real millionaires are being made. Like, all the best calls that we do are up in the Discord, because that's where we can communicate with you guys all the time. You'll appreciate that in the show, we can only do one show a day. And if the market moves after the show, there's really no way for us to communicate with you guys, right? That's why we use frontrunners, our Discord. All the best calls are in there. I mean, there was a DGen call that went up. You had the DMT call. DMT actually flew this Dream Machine. Let me show you, Dream Machine token, which we're actually very bullish about, up 32.5% today. Another one of the calls in the Discord. We called this one at about $70 over here. If you want to join, there are 40 spaces left on the waiting list. There are only 40 spaces left. What you do is you go to Crypto Banter, you go to the show today, and you look at the, here we go, front runners, and you access using this link. You will be put on the waiting list on the 1st of June. We will let the waiting list in, and it's only a very limited number of people. I think there are 40 spaces left, so hurry up if you want to actually join that. All right, now that I've done all my jobs for the head of research, let's get into the alpha of the day, historical day, the day of the ETH ETF approval. As you can see, ETH is preparing for its ETF approval. It almost touched $4,000. I mean, there is a small chance that it won't be approved, but I think in all probability, it is going to be approved. You can see that all the preparations are very much underway. You've got all the formalities getting out the way, the 19B4 filings, which are happening right now. The S1s, which is the next part of the process, that is also starting to happen right now. You also have a bipartisan group of lawmakers who have sent Gary Gensler a letter that they're urging Gary Gensler to actually approve the ETH ETFs, because it offers investors crypto access in a regulated, transparent, and safe format. And they've sent him this letter. We're going to talk about more about those regulators later. BlackRock filing all the documentation. Everything is underway, and it is expected that tonight at about 8:30 p.m. UTC, the ETH ETF will be approved. The last time it happened at about 4:30 p.m. EST. Let's see what time it actually happens today. Now, what you can see is that TradFi is starting to catch up on this trade, because remember, they were caught specifically off guard when it came to the ETH ETF, and they had to basically do a big catch up. So you can see that the ETH ETF open interest, the futures open interest on the CME went up by double. It's basically doubled in the last couple of days since the ETH ETF approval, but nowhere near where it was on the 25th of March. So there's a lot of ETH buying still to be done. Don't be fooled by the price action. As I said to you, what I think is going to happen with the ETH ETF is I think as it gets approved, we're going to get a price spike. Then over time, I think it will go down slightly because people will realize that the inflows aren't as good as the Bitcoin ETF inflows. This is all unless they approve it today, but only let it start trading in a couple of months. And that will give us time to create that pent-up demand that we had with Bitcoin. Remember, with Bitcoin, the reason why Bitcoin dumped is because we knew for a long time that the ETF was going to get approved, and there was a lot of pent-up demand and people buying futures and hedging themselves, etc., etc. With the ETH ETF, we haven't had the time to do that. So if the SEC approves the ETF for immediate trading, then I guess we get a spike and we get a slight dump because the market realizes that we're not getting the inflows as much as we want. However, if they delay the listing, if they approve it but delay the listing, then I think we get a pent-up demand as people start talking about the ETH ETF. Now, a lot of people are starting to look at what happens after the ETH ETF gets approved. And as I said, I'm really, really, really bullish in the long term about the ETH ETF. And I'll tell you why I'm really bullish long term about the ETH ETF. As I said, in the short term, I think we got shafted a little bit by the SEC's last minute decision because we never had time to create the ads, the pent up demand and everything else. In the long term, however, you have to think about how traditional finance will view ETH. And here's one of investment manager, $725 billion asset manager called Bernstein. They say ETH will reach 6,600 after the ETF. And I think that's pretty much realistic. And if you look at how TradFi actually perceives ETH, you have to think about it like a TradFi investor. Think about it from the eyes of a Wall Street investor. They look at Bitcoin and they look at ETH. When they look at Bitcoin, they can't really understand what Bitcoin is, right? Because Bitcoin really has no use case other than being held. Like, just think about that. As an investable asset, Bitcoin is like quite a bad investable asset. Why is it a bad investable asset? Because you can do nothing with it except hold it. You can't even make jewelry out of it. So when the critics who prefer gold to Bitcoin as a store of value say, look, gold has a use case. You can use it as a conductive metal in satellites and electrical equipment, and you can use it for jewelry. Bitcoin is literally just an asset that you can hold. It's a very hard asset for TradFi to actually understand. Now, compare that to ETH. ETH is a very, very, very easy for TradFi to understand. Why? Because you can tokenize real world assets on it. You can create smart contracts on it. You can build exchanges on it. You can do so many things around ETH. And the more things that you build around ETH, the more the ETH network is used, and they understand the concept of gas. That's very different from how TradFi sees Bitcoin. So generally, what you will find is that TradFi in the long term will actually understand the ETH investable asset. ETH is an investable asset much better, the thesis. And so you can see that if you look at the comments from TradFi around ETH, what you realize is Ken Griffin, now remember, these are all traditional finance people, says ETH will replace Bitcoin. 𝗙𝗢𝗡𝗏 prefers Ethereum over Bitcoin. It's a store of value and it's a payment system. I mean, he's wrong there, but still. Stan Druckenmiller predicts Ethereum will eventually dominate Bitcoin. Ray Dalio owns Bitcoin and ETH and believes crypto has a place in portfolios. Jamie Dimon, he's against the Petrock, which is Bitcoin, but believes that ETH has some use cases. Paul Tudor Jones, he says, industrial digital asset, the fourth industrial revolution. Heaps of protocol have been developed that interact with real world traditional companies. Larry Fink comes out and says it's about tokenization. You see, TradFi can actually understand ETH. It's very hard for him to understand this store of value asset that does nothing but allow you to send it from one point to another, which is currently not really programmable. So I think in the long term, TradFi takes a big liking to ETH. And I'm going to show you later why that's really good for alt season. But for now, just think about this. TradFi loves something that they can understand. In time, when we do our marketing, they will be buying it. And so I think that this is one of the most bullish announcements for ETH. And as this tweet here says from TradeX, it says, BTC takes a backseat as capital flows into ETH as a rotation and altcoins run. Why? Because people understand AI application, real world asset applications, and all that. So I don't know if you saw Tuka also, I mean, we all didn't understand why the ETH ETF got approved. Tuka obviously gave us the real story. He knows because he's an investigative journalist, and this is what he said.
Thanks for coming in, Gary.
Don't mention it. It's always a pleasure to see you, Nancy.
Can I offer you a little drinky drink?
No, thank you. It's only 8 a.m. I do intermittent fasting.
Well, then in that case, Gary, please feast your eyes on this. I think that's what they call a bombshell, not to mention disgusting and illegal.
Nancy, I mean, ma'am, I was in college. It was a long, long time ago. Please don't do this.
Can you imagine how distraught poor Elizabeth would be to see this, not to mention your wife?
I think I'm going to puke.
Likewise, Gary, sometimes I wonder where your loyalties lie, to the party or somewhere else.
Respectfully, ma'am, my loyalty is to the American investor.
Oh, cut the shit. Your ridiculous jihad against crypto is making us look bad. Really bad. It's costing us votes and could well cost us the election.
With all due respect.
Shut your hole, Gary, and listen. You're going to leave this room and go to the office, and you're going to approve the Ethereum ETFs. Then you're going to back the hell off with these absurd Wells notices. I don't want your name anywhere near CNBC for the rest of the year. Do I make myself clear? It would be such a terrible shame for your glittering career to end in disgrace. You're free to go. Paul, exit all positions and go max long on Ethereum. Full leverage. See you later. Oh,
That's
God, I am good.
I mean, that is the best investigative journalism I've seen about the ETF. Anyway, let's move past the ETH ETF because the ETH ETF is going to get approved. I mean, we've spoken about the tokens that can benefit. If you actually look at the tokens that are running today, you can see that they're already giving you signs. Pepe, the big meme coin on ETH running. Arbitrum, 7.32%. Athena, which we told you yesterday, would move. Even Starknet's getting what I call the pity bid. It's the pity bid. It's when you take pity on a token and you bid it. Lido. Basically, the ETH ecosystem is about to explode. We could potentially see DeFi coming back. So tokens like Uniswap, Curve, they may actually be coming back, ENS. This will all happen as soon as the ETH ETF gets approved, and I don't think that the ETH ETF approval is priced in, neither to ETH nor to the L2s and stuff like that. So to be honest, what I did was I increased the size of my Arbitrum position. I wonder if I can even show you my Arbitrum position on Bybit. I think I can. It's one of the positions that I have actually doubled down on. I think Arbitrum's been slightly hit. So here it is. You can actually see it over here. There's my Arbitrum position. I've doubled down. I've now got 200,000 Arbitrum in here. I'm slightly up, but I'm playing this for the long term because I think when the ETH ETF approval gets through, then all the ETH layer 2s and all the ETH tokens will continue to fly. So that's what happens today. That'll happen sometime today. Watch my Twitter. I'll keep updating you. I'm going to be on a plane. I'm flying to Monaco to watch the Grand Prix tomorrow. Remember, if you're there, let me know. Let me know if you're there. If not, you can stay up to date on my Twitter, on my Instagram, at Cryptomanran. And there's going to be a whole lot of photos if you're interested in what we do on the yachts. But remember, what happens on the yacht stays on the yachts, guys. Next thing is, I think people are starting to look past the ETH ETF and they're kind of saying, look, if there's an ETH ETF, what could be the next ETF? And I think that's something that we really need to talk about because I guess that we didn't expect an ETH ETF, and specifically we didn't expect an altcoin ETF. And now we've got the ETH ETF. And logically what that means is that once the ETF gets approved, people will say, okay, where is the next ETF? And the next ETF, I've seen multiple iterations of what the next ETF could actually be. Some of them I think are pretty dumb. But I may be wrong. Sometimes I've thought things are dumb and they were very wrong. I'll remind you that I even thought meme coins were dumb in the beginning and I was completely wrong. And I did an about turn. But I'm always flexible to change my mind if you show me a good argument. And so I looked at all the different variations of what the next ETFs could be. So, I mean, a lot of people are saying, look, it could be Dogecoin, it could be Litecoin, it could be BCH. Those are all proof of work coins. If you've approved Bitcoin, which is a proof of work coin, well, then logically, and logically, proof of work coins are not securities because they're distributed, etc. Well, then logically, the next ETFs could be Dogecoin, Litecoin, BCH. If you're talking about a proof of stake coin, you may even say it's going to be XRP. Now, look, I think that the possibilities of the SEC approving a ETF on a meme coin are very, very, very low. Got to be honest. Then you could say, okay, well, maybe not a meme coin, but maybe they'll approve an ETF on Litecoin. To me, Litecoin is actually a meme coin because I don't know anybody that uses Litecoin. Now, look, I know the founder of Litecoin. He came out and he's like, he foresees a Litecoin ETF on the horizon. But the truth is, one thing you got to remember about ETFs is there's actually got to be consumer demand or there's got to be investor demand for the asset. Otherwise, what's the point of the ETF actually getting approved? You think of like Bitcoin. There's a massive market for Bitcoin. In fact, it's the biggest launched ETF of all time, $15 billion or so in the ETFs. That's huge demand, and that means huge fees, and that means that a lot of people are incredibly incentivized to launch the ETFs. You think the same thing around ETH. It's like the biggest smart contract blockchain with the most applications building around it, with tokenization of real world assets and a fund from BlackRock. That kind of makes sense that you're going to get fighters like BlackRock actually fighting for an ETH ETF. Okay, but now think about this. What is the incentive for BlackRock to go and fight for a Dogecoin ETF? In fact, I think the place that we can look to see what the next ETFs that could be approved is probably Grayscale. Because if you look at Grayscale's last two ETFs, the two funds that were the biggest are the ones that actually got the ETFs. So the first one was Bitcoin, which had like $25 billion under management. And the next one is ETH, and they have about $11 billion under management when it comes to ETH. So then I started scrolling around, what are the other assets that Grayscale really have a lot of assets under management on? And funny enough, the one that came up was ETH Classic. They have $350 million of ETH Classic. Now, do I think that we're going to get an ETH Classic ETF? No, absolutely not. No one uses ETH Classic. Then they got $168 million in the BCH fund. Is that enough to incentivize issuers to go and fight for a BCH ETF? I highly doubt it. I'm more in the school that and I'm not in the school where Miles is, where Miles says that potentially a Doge ETF will be approved. I can't see the SEC approving an ETF on a meme coin. Not in the near future. Let's put it that way. I'm in the school of CNBC where they say that potentially the next ETF will actually be a Solana ETF.
Starting to amend these S1s. So I don't know if the Ethereum ETF gets approved today, next week or the week after. It will get approved at some point in time. But also the trade now is who's next, right?
Exactly. Who is next? Because and I was talking about yesterday. Now it's almost time for truly my ETF, my blended ETF of which which crypto asset it is. And so who is next though?
I mean, I think you've got to think about Solana as probably the next one, right? I mean, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana are probably the big three for this cycle. But I'll give you even a stranger, or maybe not stranger, but maybe an unintuitive way to think about it, Robinhood and Coinbase. Because now we have some clarity about what a security is and what isn't. And they'll be able to list a lot more crypto.
So amazing. So Solana or maybe a Robinhood and Coinbase, I doubt it's going to be anything else. But the truth is that I don't really think it matters. And I'll tell you why I don't really think it matters. Because the next ETF ain't happening anytime soon. And I'll explain to you very simply why the ETF ain't happening. The only reason why a Bitcoin and an ETH ETF have actually happened is because we have Bitcoin and ETH futures ETFs, right? We had a Bitcoin futures ETF, and that was the reason that the SEC had to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF, because Grayscale took them to court. And in court, the judge told Gary Gensler that he's arbitrary and capricious. And he said, look, you can't approve a Bitcoin futures ETF and not approve a Bitcoin spot ETF because the underlying asset is exactly the same. And so the logic says that until such time as we get a futures ETF on another asset, we can't expect another spot ETF. And right now, there are no other tokens that have futures. We think that the next ETF with futures will actually be Solana. But the problem is that right now, the SEC, in the court case with Coinbase, has actually deemed Solana a security. So until such time as we can get the regulatory clarity out the way of exactly what Solana is and what Solana isn't, or what the other tokens are, then chances are we ain't going to get another ETF. And on that note, I think we are making huge progress. Or in fact, I think yesterday was an absolute turning point when it comes to altcoins, regulatory clarity, more ETFs. And I'll tell you why. Yesterday was momentous. In fact, it wasn't only yesterday. It's been a culmination of all the things that happened since Donald Trump came out for crypto. Because since Donald Trump came out for crypto, we've seen a lot of things happen. We saw the ruling in the USA, the SAB 121 ruling, I think it was called 121, which is the banks allowed to custody crypto. And we saw the Democrats actually voting for that or against passing the rule, right? Then yesterday was a huge day because yesterday a bill called FIT 21 bill was actually passed in the United States. Not only was it passed, but it was passed by a huge majority. So here are the numbers over here. A huge majority. The numbers were 279 for and 136 against. There was a lot of lobbying before it, and I want you to listen to this. This is 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗧, and I want you just to listen how hard he was lobbying for it.
From Minnesota, a great leader for digital assets, cryptocurrency, and innovation, 𝗕𝗘𝗦𝗧.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Listen to this. Listen how good he is.
We have an opportunity to determine whether the next iteration of the internet will be designed by Americans or if it will instead reflect the values of some other nation. The FIT 21 Act gives us that opportunity and unlocks a larger conversation beyond innovation. This bill is about national security. It's about consumer protection. It's about global competitiveness. It's about shaping what the future global digital economy looks like and how it functions. Currently, all online transactions are intermediated. But as we move deeper into the digital age, digital assets are key to decentralizing the internet so Americans can transact directly with each other, no intermediary needed. Without crypto, we don't have this ability. And I think giving Americans the choice to do business through an intermediary or directly with each other is important. Having that choice will fundamentally alter the digital economy, unlocking new opportunities for Americans and individuals across the world in ways we haven't even begun to contemplate. However, this Congress can no longer stand by as regulators squander this opportunity right within our grasp. This administration has demonstrated they simply are not willing to allow the digital asset industry to innovate in the United States. For every legal inconsistency or regulatory hurdle they produce, instead of coherent and informed guidance, they drive American digital asset users into less safe jurisdictions. That's why the FIT 21 Act is significant, to set clear and consistent rules for American innovators. Among the many important provisions in this bill is my Securities Clarity Act, bipartisan language tailored specifically to digital assets that provides the legal flexibility for a digital asset project to transition from centralization to decentralization. This transition is critical to the future peer-to-peer digital economy, and I thank the chairman and my friends on the other side of the aisle.
So that's the key point. The key point was the centralization versus decentralization argument. Anyway, the vote was passed in the House. Interestingly, 71 Democrats actually voted for it, including our friend Nancy Pelosi. So even Nancy Pelosi voted for it, as per the 𝗥𝗢𝗦𝗧 video. Now, what is FIT 21? FIT 21 ultimately is a bill that it's called the Financial Innovation and Technology for the 21st Century Act. It has a few key points. It separates the SEC and the CFTC in terms of where there's jurisdiction. What it basically says is, it says, look, if the token is decentralized, the CFTC gets jurisdiction on it. If it's centralized, the SEC gets jurisdiction on it. And that comes from the Howey test, where we say if there is an expectation of profit from the actions or of a management team or a central number of people, then that is a security. But if it's decentralized, then it can't be a security. And that's where it breaks it up here. So it tries to define terms around decentralized systems. When networks are sufficiently decentralized to no longer be a security, that's when it hands it over to the CFTC, which is, of course, much more for crypto. Now, is it like a slam dunk? No. But it's much, much, much better than what we've got. And what it does feel like is that the tide has turned completely on crypto. So, the White House ain't going to veto this. As Elio says, he says, Biden just bent the knee. The US is now the center of the crypto world. Buckle up, kiddos. And that's exactly how I felt today. In fact, I was going to make a thumbnail that says, I'm moving to the USA. But then I thought, I'm not moving to the USA, so I'm not going to lie to you guys. But it does feel like if they get this right, then the US does become an amazing, amazing, amazing playground for crypto, which is so ironic. Anyway, so that's where we're at. And I guess that, you see how the tide has turned because of Donald Trump, because of what happened with Donald Trump. And now you got both parties actually voting for this bill. So that's the bill. Amazing. Look, there's still a process. I think it still has to go. I think it still has to go through Congress. I think it still needs to go through Congress. I'm not sure when that actually happens. So has everyone forgotten now how Congress works? If the bill passes the House today, it will still need to go to the Senate, which will include hearings and a markup, and then have to pass the whole Senate too. So for now, it's just a good first step, but it's certainly not the end. We haven't won yet. We've just won a battle. We haven't actually won the war. All right, let's move on to altcoins. And as you can see, the altcoins are running. Specifically, the ETH ETF altcoins are starting to run. You can see in preparation. ETH, as I said, nearly touched $4,000. Bitcoin slipping slightly, but now you can see ETH slightly slipping. You can see another thing in the charts. You can see that the Bitcoin dominance is broken down below this trend line. And that could mean that there's an altcoin season starting. And then there's another indicator, which is telling me that an altcoin season may be starting. So I've got a couple of indicators on the charts. One is I've got the Bitcoin dominance. Two is I've actually got the stochastic RSI on total 3 with a crossover telling me that we could get a big move in total 3, which is the ultimate altcoin indicator. It's the one, it's Bitcoin and it's total altcoins, less Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that is the stochastic RSI has given me a crossover and is telling me that we could actually start exploding soon. Now, remember, I love the charts, but when we get the charts, I also like to correlate the data in the charts to the data in the fundamentals. Now, let's put this piece of the puzzle together. If you look at the charts are telling you an alt season is coming. The fundamental data also shows you two things. The first thing that it shows you is you've got this the potential or the approval of the ETH ETF imminent right now. Now, what does that mean? Well, one, it means that there's going to be new money coming into crypto. And like when new money came into crypto onto Bitcoin, that money will be used for people who are holding ETH to sell the ETH and go into higher beta plays, which will include a spike in altcoins. That's number one. Remember, up until now, all the money that's been coming into Bitcoin has been rotating out of Bitcoin into alts, because institutional money has been going into Bitcoin and the private money has been going out of Bitcoin into alts. That's the first thing. The second thing around ETH, and this is super important. You got to understand this. This is huge. This is once the penny drops here and you combine it with what I'm about to tell you after this, then you'll realize why I'm so convinced now that actually we are getting the alt season, why I'm doubling down on my alt season calls. I know I've called alt season before and my timing may have not been perfect, even though we made a lot of money on the alt season, on the altcoins. I want to show you why I'm doubling down now. So one, new money coming into the ETH ETF. But two, most important, remember that how TradFi sees Bitcoin versus ETH. Bitcoin is about Bitcoin. It's about an asset that you can just hold. There's no real Bitcoin ecosystem other than Stacks and maybe a few others. There's no real Bitcoin ecosystem. ETH is dependent on its ecosystem. The VCs and the smart money realize that when you're investing in ETH, you're investing in the new internet. And for the new internet to work, you need all the decentralized applications to be built. And each one of those decentralized applications usually launches an altcoin. So when TradFi invests in Bitcoin, all they're betting on is the network effect of the store of value. When TradFi invest in ETH, what they're betting on is they're betting on a whole lot of altcoins actually exploding, right? Because in order for ETH to be successful, you need the dApps to be successful. If the dApps are successful, then the shitcoins that the dApps launch are also successful. And that's why I think that the launch of the ETH ETF will give rise to a whole lot of applications, side chains, and the VCs want those, the VCs and the TradFi need those to succeed in order for the ETH to succeed. And so that will cause an altcoin explosion, because all there'll be a lot of money coming into altcoins, because otherwise the base layer doesn't actually work, unlike Bitcoin. The next thing is, at the same time, you may actually get this FIT or FIT 121 actually coming in at some point, maybe towards the end of the year. And that will give regulatory clarity as to what is a security and what isn't a security. And then all this noise goes away. And then we get this huge eruption of altcoins, because once you know if it's a security or not a security, you know exactly how to deal with it. So if a lot of them are deemed decentralized, and it will allow us to have a litmus test for what is decentralized, then we're going to be in a situation where all of these altcoins actually start exploding, because people can invest in them, because now Americans can invest in them. And why can Americans invest in them? Because they're no longer securities. They're actually commodities, and we know how to trade commodities. And so you take the combination of FIT 121 plus money coming into the ETH ETF, which is external money coming into the crypto ecosystem, which will force crypto native people to sell their Bitcoin and ETH and invest lower down the risk curve. And then you add to that the fact that ETH is actually a base layer for multiple applications, unlike Bitcoin, and you correlate that back to the chart, and then you say, like, holy shit, the charts and the technicals are actually telling you a story, and the fundamental story is actually a big story about why alt season may happen. And the truth is, I'm doubling down now, because if my thesis is right, and I mean I've just told you what the thesis is, and it's like very, very, like, if you were TradFi, would you invest in ETH but not prop up the coins around it? Because then ETH wouldn't work. ETH is a function of how many transactions happen on the main network. That's what it is. That's what ETH is. It's a base layer internet. If there are lots of successful apps, then ETH layer works. If there are not lots of successful apps, ETH layer does not work. Think about it. Unlike Bitcoin, when the funds invest in Bitcoin, all they're investing in is a store of value, and whether people are going to transfer the store of value. And they don't really care whether the Bitcoin network is, because the Bitcoin network is actually all about just holding a store of value and actually not even transferring it, because it's like a store of value. It's not cash. No one cares how much the Bitcoin network is actually utilized. We just care about who's holding the tokens, but not ETH. ETH is about usage. Usage is about more dApps. More dApps is about more transactions. And so each dApp launches its own shitcoin. That means its own altcoin. I said shitcoin, I meant altcoin. And then, bang, bang, bang. Someone said, check the bubbles on the hourly. Let's check the bubbles on the hourly. Let's see what happened. Probably red, because the Bitcoin price has actually come down. But don't worry. We're still getting the ETF approval today. Also, we're talking about a long-term thesis. Here. So, listen, if it is going to be alt season, I've told you why I think it's going to be alt season. I am fucking doubling down on my bets. I'm not changing my thesis. I'm not changing it. My thesis remains exactly the same. My top 10 altcoins remain exactly the same, although I have added in a few more, and I'm going to show you which ones I've added in. But I'm also doubling down on a couple of my bets. And I want to show you what I'm doubling down on and why, and what I've added on and why. Cool? Happy? Let's go. Also, remember, just later in the show, I'm going to draw some GUMMY winners, because I've got to give away like $1 million worth of GUMMY. So we'll do that. Someone says my hair looking good as fuck. I went for a haircut today, guys. Good sell on. Anyway, let's go. Let me show you what I'm doubling down on and why I'm doubling down on it. I've told you the thesis of why I think alt season's coming. I think it's a very, very, very strong thesis. Now I'm going to show you which ones I'm doubling on and why. So the first one that I'm doubling down on is Arweave. I think I've told you why I'm doubling down on Arweave. The reason is, let me just find it for you. Anyway, we've spoken about it. Arweave is launching, teasing an announcement. Here, let me quickly find it for you. It's under Sam C. Williams. He said that on the 6th of June, they're making an announcement about something that's happening that's very, very, very big. Here it is. It's the major acquisition that's happening that they're announcing on the 6th of June, which is you've seen what their other acquisitions have done, or their other builds have done. So that's the first one. Second one I'm doubling down on may come as a surprise to all of you guys. But as I said, when the money comes into the ETH ETF, what you got to imagine is that a lot of people will be incentivized to make ETH grow. Who is the company in the world that is the most incentivized to make ETH grow? Josh, do you know? Come on, you tell me in the comments. Who is the company in the world today that is most incentivized to see ETH grow? Other than Consensus, which is owned by Joe Lubin, who's a co-founder of ETH. Which is the company in the world that has the most incentive to see ETH grow? It's fucking Coinbase, guys. Why? Let me tell you why Coinbase is the most, and I've added them to my top 10 crypto bets. Why? Number one, because remember that Coinbase is the custodian for 5 of the 8 ETF applicants, right? They are the custodian for the Bitcoin and ETH applications. But guys, don't forget, Coinbase is also the founder of, someone says BlackRock, you might be right. Someone says Banter, it's not Banter. Coinbase is also the founding company of Base, and they make a lot of revenue from Base because they own not the validators, but the step before the validator. They are they make a lot of money from the transaction fees. So to me, Coinbase is right now the big bet because you invest in ETH, you invest in the biggest sidechain on ETH, which is definitely going to be Base. You can see that Coinbase's annualized on-chain earnings were 8%. 8% of Coinbase's earnings were Base's net income, and it went from 8 million to 95 million. So for me, at $250 or whatever the price is of Base right now, I'm actually adding a huge amount of Coinbase to my bags. $223, I'm adding a huge amount of Coinbase to my bags. The next one that I'm doubling down on, and I'm going full on 𝗕𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗧, and that is because of yesterday's Nvidia earnings. We saw Nvidia earnings yesterday. Their earnings again were a beat. I told you they would beat. They always fucking beat. Just look at these earnings. Up 262% year on year. You understand how big that is? Just look at these, from in 2016 making 1 billion in profit or revenue to making 26 billion less than 9 years later. It's absolutely insane. And in fact, if you look at Nvidia, they're basically the entire stock market. Nvidia is like the biggest company in the stock market by far. Just some interesting stats. Number one, Nvidia is the GDP of every country in the world except 7. The GDP of Spain and Saudi Arabia combined. One company. 4 times the market cap of Tesla, 7 times the market cap of Costco. The market cap of Walmart and Amazon combined. The Russian entire GDP plus 300 billion in cash, 9 times the market cap of this is a fucking behemoth, okay? So yesterday they brought out their results. Their results were absolutely amazing. As a result of their results being absolutely amazing, I am doubling down on Near Protocol. Why am I doubling down on Near Protocol? The answer is very simple. Yesterday, Near Protocol came out with an announcement. And they announced, today we announced that we will focus on making Near the home for user-owned AI. We need AI that optimizes for privacy and sovereignty of users. Near Foundation commits to incubate and invest in Near-based AI infrastructure projects, including compute and inference, data curation, and rewarding creators, crowdsourcing, and synthetic data places, etc. Any AI application and novel consumer use case that can leverage Near, they're making this the AI chain. Now, who's making this the AI chain? 2 titans of fucking AI. Who are the titans of AI? First one is Ilya. Ilya is quoted in the the ChatGPT white paper, OpenAI's white paper. Number 1, his co-founder, 𝗥𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗧, okay? Little bit of research on 𝗥𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗧, who is currently at Near, says that if you look at 𝗥𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗧 currently serves as Near Protocol's co-founder. Prior to this, Alexandra has worked with OpenAI as a research engineer consultant. Okay, these mofos know exactly what's happening. And if I'm bullish on AI, I've got to be bullish on Near as the AI play. And I'm not the only one. Haseeb also commented about it. He said, look, Near is launching a full-on Manhattan project to build an on-chain AI ecosystem, compute data agents, even bought back 𝗥𝗔𝗡𝗦𝗧, who spent a couple of stints at OpenAI to make shit happen. Okay, so, look, doubling down. So I'm doubling down on this one. I'll show you another one that I'm doubling down on, okay? I've actually included 2 more tokens. Now, I'm only going to remain with one of them, but I've included 2 tokens, Ayaz and Akash. Both of them are the decentralized GPU, and the reality is we're not going to solve the GPU problem at the moment. And so I'm going to make a call as to whether I'm going to add more ARs or more cash to my portfolio. They've both got advantages and disadvantages. You can see that both of them have around $1 billion valuations, although ARs is slightly lower. But I've added those to my high conviction bets. Another one which I'm really doubling down on now, and I'm going ape shit here, is I'm doubling down on THORChain. I'm doubling down on Rune. And I'll tell you why I'm doubling down on Rune. Because of exactly this tweet. It said crypto has been captured by centralized entities for a decade. Rune built it all on-chain with the same ethos as Bitcoin. It's the crypto exchange for the people, the plumbing for the crypto first future. So for me, Rune has always been one of my highest conviction bets. I've held it for multiple cycles, and anyone who really understands Rune will hold it through any cycle, because Rune is, truthfully, the only real decentralized DEX infrastructure, if you want to call it that. It's the only one. And the other thing about Rune is, not only is it's literally a one-horse race. There's actually nothing similar to Rune. But the tokenomics of Rune are so absolutely insane that the more usage you get of Rune, the more Rune has to be bought up and locked up. That's just how the flywheel works on Rune. And so now when they've got lending and stuff like that, so they've got streaming swaps. Says THORChain is no longer dependent on liquidity for optimal price execution, only the time it takes to swap. THORChain is battle tested. So this is like a battle tested protocol. Now, they're also integrating with Cosmos through IBC. So remember, they built on Cosmos chain, on Cosmos technology, but they haven't been integrated with IBC, which is a bridge which bridges all the Cosmos chains together. Now they are integrating into IBC. Now you'll see that tweet came from a guy called 𝗕𝗘𝗙𝗦. So who's 𝗕𝗘𝗙𝗦? 𝗕𝗘𝗙𝗦 is actually the founder of Rune. He was the guy that actually founded it. Now, for years, this guy was like one of these anonymous founders, never spoke to anyone, didn't want to obviously be doxxed, but now has decided that he's going to be doxxed. Now, this guy, I would say probably the most impressive guy, the most impressive founder that I've ever spoken to, okay? This is the guy that created Rune. This is the guy that created THORChain. I've had some recent conversations with him, as he's tweeted about, and this guy is the most impressive founder that I've ever come across. And he is going balls to the wall now around decentralization, DEX technology, and I think that THORChain will be at the middle of all of this. So doubling down on THORChain, doubling down on it. Also, I mean, if you look at the usage statistics, absolutely amazing. MetaMask announced they will support Bitcoin yesterday. I don't know if you saw that, but they've already integrated THORChain. So like, this is huge. For me, doubling down on THORChain as well. The last one that I'm doubling down on, I can't really double down on it, but the only way that I can double down on it is dBridge. Why? Because I don't know how many of you have actually used dBridge, but it is the most incredible bridging experience in the world. It literally takes 4 seconds to transfer money from ETH to Solana in 4 seconds. Now, how do you double down on dBridge? You can't invest in it, unfortunately, because even though they have announced that they are launching a token here, let me show you. I don't know if I've got it here, but they have announced that they're going to have a token. You can't invest in a token, unfortunately. So how do you get in? You go to this video over here. You click on this link over here. This is dBridge. This is the actual dBridge. When you use this bridge, you get points for their airdrop. It's the only way for you to actually get exposure to dBridge. It's the only way to do it. Let me connect my wallet and show you how amazing dBridge actually is. So, the only way for you to actually get dBridge tokens, you can't buy them, unfortunately, is to actually use the bridge and to actually get points in the airdrop. And I think that the airdrop here is going to be a huge airdrop. So let me try and connect a wallet. Let's see if I have a wallet here that actually has money. I should have one. Okay, so here we go. I've now logged in. Let me see if I can. There we go. Okay, so I've logged in. I want to show you how simple it is. And to show you how simple it is, all I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy a Solana address. But I can't do Morris Lippy again. I'm going to take 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗏 good this is. Right now, in my wallet, I have 0.43 ETH. Can you see I got 0.43? That's all I got in my wallet. Now, let's say that I want to send 0.05 ETH and I want to convert that to USDC coin, but I want it to arrive at USDC coin on the Solana network. Literally, that's how easy it is. I go Solana network, USDC coin. Okay, let me send him. Let's send half an ETH. What's half an ETH? Half an ETH is half an ETH is huge, isn't it? Okay, $377, right? I'm going to send to him. Now, asking me for an address. That's the address. Now, watch how quickly. Okay, it's just confirming. It's going to confirm a new rate because I've been messing around here for too long. Bang, 200. I'm sending him 2 SOL from ETH. I'm confirming the trade. Okay, here we go. Okay, I don't know if it's opened. I've got too many windows open here. And I've got to approve the transaction somewhere, but the approval window hasn't popped up. Anyway, it takes about 4 seconds. I will transfer the money to him. It takes about 4 seconds. If you want to use it, use this link. We all get points for the airdrop. And if we get points for the airdrop, we all get rich. It's the only way that you can double down on 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗦 at the moment. It's the only way that you can actually get exposure to 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗦 at the moment. All right, with that in mind, I said I'm going to give away some GUMMY. Remember, if you want... Okay, here we go. I'm just approving this. Okay, the trade has gone through. Now, I did say I was going to give away GUMMY. If you want GUMMY, if you want some GUMMY, if you want GUMMY, there are 2 ways to get GUMMY very, very quickly. Now, this one you have to hurry up. Open an account at Bybit, trade GUMMY, open an account at Bybit, deposit $100. Trade for $500, you get $100 immediately deposited into your account. But if you just open an account and deposit $100 in the next 7 days, and you only have 7 fucking days to do this, you will get GUMMY. Right now, it's about $350 to $400 per user. But the more users, the less it becomes. So hurry up and register. Also, I said, if you traded GUMMY, I'm going to give you GUMMY. I'm going to give you 3,500 GUMMY. So this account here, I'm giving you 3,500 GUMMY. This account over here, anyone who's traded GUMMY is going to get GUMMY. So bang, you've got 3,500. You got 3,500 over here. And I'm going to carry on going. Just guys, do it. I'm going to do this on the plane. I'm going to highlight a lot of people. Make sure that your name is actually on the list. Another person who actually got GUMMY, which I don't know if you guys saw this, but I think this is the most deserved person who actually got GUMMY, is this person over here who renamed his child. He renamed the child Run Gummy Bika. No jokes. I checked this. Bika Run Gummy. He went and changed the name of his child. He did that. He literally changed the name of his child. And I mean, I'm flabbergasted. I'm flabbergasted. Anyway, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Remember, go and get your 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗦 points. Go and get your 𝗕𝗥𝗢𝗦 points over here. Sign up to Bybit. I will see you tomorrow. Big show tomorrow. Big show, big banter tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.